Part 4. The Trial of World's Ambassador. Sora walked into the council chambers with her head held high. She was young, only 30 years old, born in the void between stars. She had never seen Earth, never walked on a planet, never felt natural gravity, but she carried the weight of 3,000 years of human grief on her shoulders. The council chambers were massive. Built to hold representatives from 12 different species, it was designed to make visitors feel small. High ceilings, grand pillars, ornate decorations everywhere, a monument to council power and authority. Today, it would become a courtroom. Sora walked to the center of the chamber where a platform waited. Behind her, holographic projectors had been set up. Billions of people across the galaxy were watching this moment on their screens. Human technicians had hacked into every major communication network to ensure the trial would be broadcast everywhere. Counselor Thex sat in the high seat, trying to maintain dignity. Around him, the other council members shifted nervously. They were surrounded. A human fleet capable of destroying their world waited outside. But Admiral Yuna had promised no violence during the trial. The only weapons here would be words and evidence. "I am Ambassador Sora of the human species," she began. Her voice was steady, strong. 3,000 years ago, the Galactic Council committed genocide against humanity. Today we present evidence of that crime. Today the Council will answer for what they did, and today the galaxy will judge them. Thex leaned forward. The Earth incident was a legitimate security action. Humanity stole technology and threatened the stability of galactic peace. Legitimate? Sora's voice turned cold. Let me show you what legitimate looks like. She gestured to the holographic projectors. The chamber's lights dimmed, and Earth's final day played for everyone to see. The footage came from 17 different sources. Civilian cameras, military recordings, satellite feeds, all preserved perfectly in the Genesis archives for 3,000 years. The galaxy watched as Council warships appeared in Earth's atmosphere. They watched cities burn. They watched civilian evacuation centers destroyed. They watched families running, screaming, dying. The sound was the worst part. The holographic system carried audio. The galaxy heard children crying, heard parents calling for lost sons and daughters, heard the roar of buildings collapsing and the screams of billions dying. Sora let the footage play for 10 minutes. Nobody in the council chambers spoke. Many couldn't watch. Some council members turned away from the images. Others stared in horror at what their predecessors had done. When the footage ended, Sora spoke into the silence. 8 billion people died that day. Not soldiers, not criminals, civilians, families, children. The Galactic Council killed them all because humanity learned too fast, built too quickly, became too successful. We were protecting the galaxy, Thex said. But his voice was weak. From what? Sora demanded. From a species that wanted to trade? That offered partnership? That tried diplomacy before you brought guns? She gestured, and the holographic system brought up new images. Old communication records from 3,000 years ago. Messages from Earth's governments to the Council. Offers of cooperation, requests for negotiation, proposals for sharing technology. These are the messages Earth sent before you destroyed it, Sora said. Humanity tried peace. You chose war. Jihoon stepped forward next. He was the fleet's chief historian, a man who had spent his entire life studying Earth's destruction. He carried data tablets containing 3,000 years of research. Let me tell you about the lie, Jihoon said. The Council claimed humanity stole quantum drive technology. But here are the facts. A Council scout ship crashed in Earth's ocean. Humanity salvaged it and studied the wreckage. That's not theft. That's salvage rights, recognized in every spacefaring culture's laws, including the Council's own legal code. He brought up more documents, legal precedents, Council law articles, cases where Council species had done exactly the same thing, salvaging crashed alien ships and studying their technology. None of those species had been destroyed for it. Humanity did nothing that the Council species haven't done themselves, Jihoon continued. The difference is that humanity did it quickly. We learned fast. We built fast. We advanced fast. And that scared you. It should have scared us, said another Council member, a species called Vren. You proved our fears correct. Look at your fleet outside. Look at your weapons. You became exactly what we feared. We became this because you forced us to. Sora shot back. You destroyed our world. You scattered us into space to die. You gave us 3,000 years to think about revenge. What did you expect would happen? Did you think we would just forget? Did you think we would forgive? She stepped closer to Thex, her eyes blazing. We spent 3,000 years building weapons because 3,000 years ago, you taught us that peace doesn't work. That diplomacy doesn't work. That the only language you understand is force. You created us. You made us into this. And now you complain that we're dangerous? The chamber fell silent again. The logic was brutal but correct. The Council had feared humanity might become a military threat. So they attacked humanity, proving that military force was necessary. They created the exact problem they feared. Elder Myra stood up slowly. He was Terrell, the same species as Counselor Thex, but much older. He had white skin and tired eyes that had seen too much history. I must speak, Myra said. I am a historian and scholar. I have studied the Council's history for 200 years, and I have discovered something terrible. Thex looked alarmed. Elder Myrus, this is not the time. This is exactly the time, Myrus interrupted. The galaxy must know. Earth was not the only genocide. Shock rippled through the chamber. Sora turned to look at the old Terrell. Myrus pulled up his own data files. Over the Council's 5,000-year history, we have destroyed 4 other species completely. All young species, all developing quickly, all deemed potential threats before they could even defend themselves. He showed names and dates. Species the galaxy had forgotten, worlds turned to dust, billions of lives erased from existence, all buried in classified archives, all justified the same way. They were dangerous. They were advancing too fast. They had to be stopped. The Council has built our peace on graves, Myra said sadly. We rule this region of space because we killed everyone who might have challenged us. We're not peacekeepers. We're murderers who got away with it. The broadcast carrying this trial reached every corner of Council space. On 100 worlds, people watched their government being exposed. News networks exploded with reaction. Species that had trusted the Council for thousands of years suddenly learned their protectors were killers. In the Council chambers, Thex sat frozen. He couldn't deny what Myra said. The archives existed. The crimes were real. The Council's foundation was built on genocide. What do you want from us? Thex asked Sora quietly. You have the power to destroy us. You've proven that. What do you want? Sora looked at him for a long moment. This was the question humanity had debated for months. What did they want? Simple revenge, an eye for an eye, a world for a world. It would be easy. It would be satisfying. They could reduce SciFiPrime to asteroids just like Earth, but Hana's words echoed in Sora's mind. The words of the Keeper who had preserved human culture. Will we become destroyers like the Council? Or will we be better? We want justice, Sora said finally. Real justice, not revenge. What does that look like? Thex asked. Sora gestured to her people. Admiral Yuna appeared via hologram standing next to Minho and Yunji, the leaders of humanity presenting their terms together. The Galactic Council will be dissolved, Yuna said. Your absolute power ends today. In its place, we will build something better. A galactic assembly where all species have equal voice, where no one species can decide to destroy another. All Council military forces will be reduced to defensive levels only, Minho added. Your weapons of planet destruction will be dismantled. You will submit to the same laws you forced on younger species. And you will pay reparations, Yunji said. Not money. Not resources. You will help us restore Earth. Your scientists, your engineers, your technology. You will spend the next 500 years helping us rebuild our homeworld from the asteroids you made. Thex looked at his fellow Council members. They were trapped and they knew it. But honestly, the human demands were more merciful than expected. They could have demanded complete destruction. Instead, they demanded change and restoration. If we refuse? Thex asked. Then we prove the Council right, Sora said quietly. We become destroyers. We reduce your worlds to dust just like you did to us. We kill billions just like you killed billions. And the cycle of violence continues forever. She paused. But we don't want that. We want to show the galaxy that humanity deserved to exist. That we're better than you feared. That we can build instead of just destroying. That's our revenge, Counselor. Not killing you. Proving you were wrong about us. The trial continued for 3 more days. Evidence was presented. Testimonies were heard. Witnesses spoke about Earth's destruction and the 4 other genocides the Council had committed. The galaxy watched it all. On the 4th day, Counselor Thex stood before the gathered representatives and the watching galaxy. Part 5. The New Covenant. 6 months after the trial, Chancellor Una stood at the podium in the new Galactic Assembly building. She was no longer Admiral. That title belonged to her past. Now she helped lead the restructured government that replaced the old council. The building was intentionally different from the old council chambers. Smaller, simpler, with seating arranged in circles instead of hierarchies. Every species had equal space. Every voice carried equal weight. Today we ratify the Restoration Compact, Una announced. Former council species have agreed to contribute resources, technology, and labor to Earth's restoration. The project will take 500 years. Many of us here today will not live to see it completed, but our grandchildren will walk on Earth's soil again. Representatives from dozens of species signed the document. Terrell scientists who would develop terraforming technology, Vren engineers who would help rebuild Earth's tectonic stability, Kreth workers who would transport materials. Species that once served the Council now working to repair the damage that Council caused. But not everyone was happy. Yunji stood in the back of the assembly hall, arms crossed, watching the ceremony with cold eyes. Beside her, a group of like-minded humans whispered among themselves. They wore black uniforms marked with a red earth symbol. They called themselves the Remembrance. Look at them, Yunji muttered, shaking hands with our enemies, smiling with the species that killed our ancestors. This isn't justice. This is betrayal. One of her companions nodded. We should have destroyed SciFiPrime when we had the chance. Should have made them feel what we felt. It's not too late, Yunji said quietly. That night, 30 human warships left the fleet. They jumped to quantum speed before anyone could stop them. They were Forge-born mostly, soldiers and engineers who had spent their entire lives building weapons for revenge. They had accepted the trial because their leaders asked them to, but they never truly agreed with mercy. Yunji commanded the breakaway fleet from her flagship named Vengeance. She had 5,000 followers, humans who believed that forgiveness was weakness, that the Council deserved destruction, not rehabilitation, that humanity's only safety was in being so dangerous that nobody would ever threaten them again. They jumped to the edge of known space and vanished. The Galactic Assembly sent messages asking them to return. Yunji sent one reply. We go to remind the galaxy what humanity is capable of. We will be the sword hanging over the Council's neck. If they betray the Restoration Compact, if they threaten any human colony, if they show any sign of returning to their old ways, we will return. And we will show no mercy. The message was a threat and a promise. The remembrance would be humanity's dark side. The violence that mercy couldn't erase. They would wait in the shadows, ready to emerge if the galaxy forgot that humanity could still destroy. Chancellor Una read Yunji's message and felt sadness more than anger. She understood the feeling. Part of her wanted the same thing. Wanted to see SciFiPrime burn, wanted to make them suffer. But she also knew that revenge was a fire that burned forever if you fed it. Let them go, she told her advisors. We can't force them to accept peace. But we won't help them either. They've chosen their path. We've chosen ours. Meanwhile, Min Seo arrived at the asteroid field that used to be Earth. He was an architect and engineer, assigned to lead the restoration project. His ship, the Builder's Hope, carried the first equipment for the massive undertaking. He floated in space, looking at the billions of rocks that had once been a planet. Earth's asteroid field spread across millions of kilometers. Each piece of rock was a fragment of home. Somewhere in this debris were pieces of Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London, pieces of forests and mountains and oceans, all broken, all scattered, all waiting. It's impossible, his assistant said, looking at the scale of destruction. Good, Min Seo replied. Humanity specializes in impossible things. The restoration project had 3 phases. First, collect the asteroids and sort them by composition. Second, use gravity generators to slowly pull the pieces back together into a planetary core. Third, add materials from other sources to rebuild Earth's mass, then terraform the surface. 500 years. That's how long the computer models predicted. 20 generations of humans would work on this before Earth lived again. Min Seo deployed the first gravity generator. It was a massive machine, larger than a city powered by quantum cores. It would take millions of these generators to rebuild a planet. The Council had agreed to build them. Former enemies working together to fix what was broken. He watched the generator activate. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, nearby asteroids began drifting toward the gathering point. The first pieces of Earth, starting their long journey home. We're really doing this, his assistant said with wonder. We're really doing this, Minseo confirmed. Back in assembly space, Captain Tajin prepared for a different kind of mission. He stood on the bridge of Unity, a ship designed specifically for this purpose. Half the crew was human. The other half came from 5 different former council species. They had trained together for months, learning to work as one unit. All systems ready, reported Kira, his Torel co-pilot. Quantum drive charged. Course set for the Perseus arm. Tajin looked around his bridge. Humans working beside Torel, Vren, Kreth, and others. Species that had been enemies 6 months ago. Now they were explorers together, heading into unknown space. Our mission is simple, Tajin announced to his crew. We explore beyond council space. We search for new worlds, new species, new possibilities. And we show the galaxy that different species can work together. That cooperation is stronger than conquest. Unity jumped to quantum speed, leaving known space behind. They were the first of many mixed species exploration vessels. A new era of galactic society, built on partnership instead of domination. In the rebuilt assembly hall, young Nari celebrated her 7th birthday. She was the daughter of 2 of Yuna's staff members, born after the trial, part of the first generation of humans to grow up without hiding. She played with children from other species, laughing and running through the gardens that surrounded the assembly building. Hana, the old keeper who had preserved Earth's cherry blossom seed, watched the children play. She was very old now, over 120 years. She had lived through the hiding, the preparation, the return, and now the rebuilding. She had seen humanity at its worst and its best. Do you think we did the right thing? Minseo asked, sitting beside her. He had returned from Earth's asteroid field for the assembly session. Asking if Mercy was right, Hana said, Yes, I think we did. But time will tell. Yunji and her people don't think so. Yunji carries her pain differently, Hana replied. She's not wrong to be angry. She's not wrong to remember. But she chose to let anger define her. We chose to let hope define us. Both are valid responses to grief. She held up the cherry blossom seed still in its container. I'm taking this to Earth next month. Minseo, your people say the first safe zone will be ready? A small area, barely a square kilometer, Minseo confirmed. But yes, the soil is stable. The atmosphere is breathable in that zone. You can plant your seed. Our seed, Hana corrected. It belongs to all humanity. 1 month later, Hana stood on Earth for the first time in her life. The safe zone was tiny, surrounded by environmental shields, but it was real Earth soil. Real Earth gravity. Real Earth air, filtered and cleaned but carrying the same elements that had existed here 3,000 years ago. Around her, representatives from every human colony gathered. Yuna was there, Minho, Junho's descendants. Even some former council species came to witness this moment. Hana knelt slowly. Her old body protested, but she ignored the pain. She dug a small hole in the soil that had been asteroids just months ago, soil that had been processed and prepared and made ready for life again. She placed the cherry blossom seed in the hole, covered it gently, watered it from a container of water synthesized from Earth's ice fragments. Dr. Nari saved this seed 3,000 years ago, Hana said to the gathered crowd. She died in space, never seeing Earth again. But she believed that someday someone would plant this seed in Earth's soil. She believed humanity would return. She believed we would rebuild. Today we prove she was right. This seed is the first life on Earth in 3,000 years, but it won't be the last. 500 years from now, Earth will be green again. Forests will grow. Oceans will flow. And humans will walk freely under a sky that belongs to them. Young Nari, the 7-year-old child, stepped forward. Will I see it? No, Hana said honestly. Neither will I. Neither will most people here. But your children will. Or your children's children. That's the thing about building something good. Sometimes you don't get to see it finished. You just have to believe it's worth building. The ceremony ended. The seed sat in Earth's soil, beginning its slow journey to life. Above them, thousands of gravity generators worked to pull more asteroids together. Around the solar system, construction facilities built more machines, more tools, more pieces of the restoration. 100 years passed. The seed grew into a tree. Young Nari, now old Nari, visited it with her own grandchildren. The safe zone had expanded to cover 100 square kilometers. Grass grew. Small forests appeared. Part 3. The return Captain Hyun's stealth ship drifted through space near the Council's homeworld like a shadow. The ship called Ghost of Soul was barely larger than a fighter, but it carried technology the Council couldn't detect. His crew of 12 had been watching SciFiPrime for 3 weeks, studying patterns, gathering intelligence, preparing for what came next. Council Defense Fleet is changing shifts, his sensor officer reported. Window opens in 4 minutes, Hyun nodded. For 3,000 years, humans had wondered what the Council's homeworld looked like. Now he was seeing it through his view screen. A beautiful planet, he had to admit. Blue oceans, green continents, cities that glittered under the light of twin suns. It looked peaceful. It looked safe. It looked like Earth used to look. All systems quiet, Hyun ordered. We're going in. 3 light years away, Admiral Yuna's fleet prepared to announce humanity's return. 300 warships hung in space near 14 Council colony worlds. The timing had been planned perfectly. At exactly the same moment, human ships would appear at 14 different locations across Council space. Not the homeworld, not yet, but important colonies. Wealthy worlds. Places the Council would have to defend. Yuna stood on the bridge of her flagship, Resurrection. Around her, officers worked quietly. Everyone knew their role. They had practiced this for months. For years. For lifetimes. All fleet groups report ready, said her tactical officer. Synchronized countdown begins in 30 seconds. Yuna thought about Admiral Taman, who had commanded the evacuation of Earth 3,000 years ago. He had saved 200,000 people and lost 8 billion. She wondered what he would think of this moment. Would he be proud? Would he be horrified? Would he recognize what humanity had become? All ships, Yuna broadcast across the fleet channel. Today we return. Today the galaxy learns that humanity survived. Today we begin collecting the debt owed to Earth. Remember what we fight for. Remember who we are. Remember that we're better than those who destroyed us. The countdown reached 0. Across 14 worlds, human warships appeared from Quantum Jump. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel with perfect precision, surrounding Council defense forces. For a moment, nobody moved. The Council defenders stared at ships they didn't recognize, using technology they didn't understand, appearing in formations that should have been impossible to coordinate across such distances. Then the human ships opened fire. The battle was over in minutes. Human weapons phased through Council shields like they weren't there. Human ships moved with speed and grace that made Council vessels look like floating rocks. Council defense forces tried to fight back, but their weapons splashed uselessly against human armor. Not a single human ship took damage. Not one human soldier died. The Council defenders were destroyed or disabled completely. On the bridge of Resurrection, Yuna watched the tactical display. 14 green markers showed 14 victories. 14 Council colonies now sat defenseless under human guns. Broadcast the message, she ordered. Across all 14 worlds, the same transmission played. It showed Admiral Taman's face from 3,000 years ago, speaking his final words before the colony ships scattered. Remember, survive, return. Then the image changed to show Earth's destruction. The planet cracking. The continents shattering. 8 billion lives ending in fire and violence. Then a new face appeared. Admiral Yuna speaking in the present. 3,000 years ago, the Galactic Council destroyed Earth. They killed 8 billion humans. They scattered the survivors into space. They believed they had eliminated a threat. They were wrong. We survived, we built, we prepared, and now we have returned. We have disabled your defense forces at 14 colonies. We did this without losses. We did this easily. Understand what this means. We could have destroyed these worlds. We could have killed everyone on them. We chose not to. We are showing mercy that the Council never showed us. But we demand justice. In 7 days, we will arrive at SciFiPrime. We will not attack. We will not destroy. Instead, we demand the Council stand trial for genocide. They will answer for Earth. They will face what they did, and the galaxy will watch. The transmission ended. Yuna cut the channel and looked at her officers. Secure the colonies. Take no unnecessary life. Begin orbital blockade, and prepare the fleet for movement to SciFiPrime. On SciFiPrime, Council chambers erupted in chaos. Councillor Thex, the current leader, watched the human transmission for the 3rd time. He was Terrell, a species known for careful thinking and logical decisions. But logic had no answer for this. How many humans survived? Someone shouted. The intelligence said they were extinct. Another voice yelled. How did they build such weapons? Why didn't we detect them? Thex raised his hands for quiet. Enough, we face a crisis. We need information before we make decisions. His intelligence chief, a nervous creature named Vex, pulled up data files. According to archives from 3,000 years ago, we destroyed their homeworld and scattered 17 evacuation ships. We estimated all ships would fail within a generation. We were obviously wrong. Obviously, Thex said dryly. What else? Their technology appears to be several generations ahead of ours. Their weapons, their shields, their drives, all superior. The attack on 14 colonies was perfectly coordinated across light years. That should be impossible with our understanding of quantum communication. And their fleet strength? Unknown. We only know they deployed enough ships to destroy 14 separate defense forces simultaneously. And they did it without taking damage. Thex felt cold fear settling in his chest. The Council had ruled this region of space for 5,000 years. They had never faced a real military threat. They had grown comfortable, safe, assuming their technology and numbers would always be superior. Now something stronger had appeared. Something with a grudge 3,000 years old. What do our military advisors say? Thex asked. The military commander, a large armored species called Kreth, spoke with a gravelly voice. We cannot win a direct fight. Our simulations show complete defeat within days if they attack Zentara Prime. Our only options are negotiation or surrender. The chamber fell silent. The Galactic Council, rulers of 74 worlds, masters of thousands of star systems, faced an enemy they couldn't beat. They mentioned a trial. Thex said slowly. They want us to answer for destroying Earth. It was 3,000 years ago, Vex protested. Everyone involved is long dead. That won't matter to them, Thex replied. They're right. We committed genocide. The fact that we did it in the past doesn't change what we did. Meanwhile, Captain Hyun's stealth mission continued on Zentara Prime's surface. Disguised as a Tyrell trader, he walked through the capital city's historical district. He visited museums and libraries. He accessed public archives. What he found disturbed him deeply. Earth was barely mentioned in Council history. The destruction of humanity was listed as a minor police action in a footnote. The files claimed humans had stolen technology and threatened Council security. The official history painted humanity as criminals who got what they deserved. There was no mention of the 8 billion civilians who died. No acknowledgement that an entire species was nearly erased. No recognition that Earth's destruction might have been wrong. Hyun sent his findings back to Admiral Yuna via encrypted quantum communication. She read his report and felt anger burning cold inside her. The Council didn't even remember what they did. Humanity had spent 3,000 years remembering Earth's destruction every single day. The Council had spent 3,000 years forgetting about it. General Quan, leader of human marine forces, captured a Council fortress world called Draven 4. His soldiers moved through the base like ghosts, neutralizing defenders without killing when possible. They took prisoners, including several high-ranking Council officers. During interrogation, one officer said something that spread through the human fleet like fire. I don't understand why you're so angry. The Earth incident was ancient history. It had to be done. You were developing too fast, becoming too dangerous. We had no choice. The officer genuinely believed it. 3,000 years of institutional thinking had convinced the Council that Earth's destruction was justified. They saw themselves as victims who had been forced to act. They felt no guilt. They accepted no responsibility. Quan reported this to Admiral Yuna. She called an emergency meeting of fleet commanders. They don't think they did anything wrong, she said. They still believe they were right to destroy Earth. Yoonji, the Forge-born leader who had joined the fleet as a military advisor, slammed her fist on the table. Then we burn their worlds until they understand. No, said Minho, speaking via hologram from his command ship. That proves them right. They said we were dangerous. If we respond with more genocide, we become the monsters they claimed we were. So what do? Yoonji demanded. Yuna looked at her commanders. Human faces, all descendants of survivors, all carrying the weight of inherited trauma, all wanting justice but unsure what justice looked like. We continue with the trial, Yuna decided, but we make sure the galaxy watches. The Council thinks Earth's destruction was justified. Let's show the galaxy exactly what they did and let everyone else decide if it was justified. Part 2. 3 millennia of Shadow Minho floated through the corridor of the habitat sphere, his body moving with the effortless grace of someone born in zero gravity. 3,000 years had passed since Earth died. Minho had never seen a planet. His great-great-grandmother, 45 generations back, had been one of the children evacuated on the Eternal Vigil. Now, Minho led one of the largest human colonies in the galaxy, hidden deep inside a massive nebula the Council had never bothered to explore. He pulled himself into the command center where Unji waited. She was broad-shouldered and strong, her arms marked with scars from years working in the forges. Her people lived inside a hollowed asteroid, building ships in secret for the past 1,000 years. "Show me," Minho said. Unji pulled up holographic displays. 17 colony ships had scattered from Earth. 15 had survived the journey into deep space. Over 3 millennia, those 15 colonies had grown, multiplied, and evolved. Each colony developed its own specialties based on where they hid and what resources they found. The Voidborn, Minho's people, mastered stealth and survival in the emptiness between stars. They grew up in artificial gravity or no gravity at all. They built everything from ice and rock harvested from comets. Their technology focused on hiding, on being invisible, on moving through space like ghosts. Yunji's people, the Forgeborn, lived inside asteroids and built warships. Massive construction facilities had been carved into solid rock. For 1,000 years they had been building a fleet, the Shadow Fleet they called it. 300 warships, each one larger than anything the Council had ever constructed. Each ship named after a city that burned when Earth died. Other colonies specialized in other things. The Deepborn developed biological weapons and genetic engineering. The Wanderers created artificial intelligence systems that made Council computers look like toys. The Watchers built a spy network that infiltrated Council space, gathering intelligence for centuries. "All colonies report ready," Yunji said. "We've reached the threshold, the threshold." The moment humanity had been preparing for since the evacuation. Every 50 years, each colony sent an automated probe to a predetermined location called the Remembrance Point, a dead star system where nothing lived and nobody looked. The probes carried status reports: how many humans survived, what technology they developed, whether they were ready for what came next. The criteria were simple. Humanity would return to Council space only when they could guarantee victory. Not a close fight, not a fair fight. Complete, overwhelming, undeniable victory. For 3,000 years, the answer had been no. Not yet. Keep building. Keep hiding. Keep preparing. Now, finally, the answer had changed to yes. Minho pulled up the latest intelligence reports. Dahan, the spy master of the Watcher colony, had sent these. His people had spent centuries infiltrating Council space. They looked almost exactly like one of the Council species called the Torel. Some careful genetic modification and false identity papers, and humans could walk freely among the enemy. "The Council has grown soft," Minho read aloud. "Their last war was 800 years ago. Most species in the Council have reduced military spending. They believe they rule a peaceful galaxy. Their weapons technology has barely advanced since they destroyed Earth." Yunji smiled coldly. "And ours? Our quantum drives are 3 generations ahead of theirs. Our weapons phase through their shield technology. Our armor is lighter and stronger. Our soldiers are faster and smarter. In every measurable category we have surpassed them. Then why do we wait?" Minho looked at the hologram showing the position of all 15 human colonies. Scattered across the galaxy, hidden and separate but connected by purpose, 200,000 refugees had become 200 million descendants. Children who grew up on stories of Earth's destruction. Adults who trained their whole lives for revenge. "We wait for Hana," Minho said. Hana arrived 3 days later. She was old, over 100 years, but still sharp. She served as keeper of the memory archives for her colony. Every human colony maintained archives containing everything from Earth. The art, the history, the music, the literature, the video recordings of Earth's final day. Hana's job was making sure nobody forgot why they lived in hiding. She floated into the command center carrying a small container. Inside was a seed, a cherry blossom seed from Earth, preserved for 3,000 years in stasis. "I bring this from Dr. Nari's original collection," Hana said. "The first scientist who saved our culture. She made me promise something generations ago. She made all the keepers promise." "What promise?" Minho asked. "That before we return for revenge, we remember what we're avenging. We're not avenging military defeat. We're avenging the destruction of beauty, of life, of potential. She held up the seed. This should be growing in soil under a sun. Instead, it's frozen in a box because the council feared what humanity might become. Yunji crossed her arms. We know what they did. Knowing and remembering are different, Hana replied. I've spent 3,000 years making sure humans remember. Making sure every child sees the footage of Earth breaking apart. Making sure every adult knows the names of the cities that burned. But I also make sure they remember what Earth was before it died. The forests, the oceans, the simple beauty of wind and rain. She fixed her eyes on Minho. When we return to Council space, we'll have power they can't imagine. We'll have weapons that can crack planets just like they cracked ours. The question is, will we use them? Will we become destroyers like the Council? Or will we be better? Minho said nothing for a long moment. He had been raised on stories of revenge. Every void-born child learned to hate the Council before they learned to read. The dream of returning to Council space and making them pay had driven human development for 3 millennia. It was the fire that kept them going through centuries of hiding in the cold dark. But Hana was right. Revenge was easy. Being better was hard. We'll discuss it when the fleet gathers, Minho finally said. For now, send the signal. Tell all colonies to begin movement toward the rally point. The return begins. Over the next 6 months, 15 human colonies prepared for war. The Forgeborn loaded weapons onto their 300 warships. The Voidborn installed their stealth systems. The Deepborn prepared biological countermeasures in case Council species tried to use diseases as weapons. The Wanderers synchronized their AI systems to coordinate fleet movements across light years. Daihan's spy network sent final intelligence updates. The Council had 74 settled worlds and maybe 2,000 military ships. But those ships were designed for peacekeeping and patrol, not real war. The Council's greatest weakness was their assumption that they had no real enemies. They had been the strongest force in the galaxy for so long that they forgot what it meant to fight someone equally strong, or someone stronger. The human fleet gathered at Remembrance Point. 300 massive warships, each one a miracle of engineering and a monument to patience. Soldiers drilled endlessly. Pilots ran simulations. Engineers checked every system twice, then checked again. Admiral Yuna commanded the fleet. She was the great-great-granddaughter of Captain Junho, the pilot who had saved 15,000 lives on the overloaded Eternal Vigil. Junho's ship still existed, transformed over the centuries into a mobile museum. Yuna had stood on its bridge many times reading her ancestors' logs, trying to understand the man who had watched Earth die. She called a meeting of all colony leaders. Minho came from the Voidborn, Yunji from the Forgeborn. Representatives from every hidden human colony floated in holographic form around the command table. We're ready, Yuna said simply. Our fleet is ready. Our weapons are ready. Our people are ready. For 3,000 years, we have prepared for this moment. Now I ask, what do we want? What is our goal? Silence filled the room. The question seemed obvious: revenge, justice, payment for Earth. But Hana's words had spread through the fleet. Many humans were now asking uncomfortable questions. Yunji spoke first. We destroy their capital world. Just like they destroyed ours. They learn what it feels like to watch their home turn to dust. Others nodded agreement. It was simple. It was fair. Eye for an eye, world for a world, but Minho shook his head. Then we become exactly what they feared. A dangerous species that destroys worlds. We proved them right. They destroyed us first, Yunji shouted. They destroyed the people who lived 3,000 years ago, Minho replied. Every council member who ordered Earth's destruction is long dead. The current council inherited a galaxy built on our graves, but they didn't dig those graves themselves. So we forgive them? Aounji asked with disbelief. No, Yuna interrupted. We make them face what their predecessors did. We make them answer for it. We make them pay for it. But we do it in a way that doesn't turn us into monsters. Hana held up the cherry blossom seed again. This is what I want to see. I want to see the seed planted in Earth soil again. I want the Council to help us restore what they destroyed. That's better revenge than simply destroying them in return. The meeting went on for hours. Humans argued passionately about justice, revenge, and what they owed to their ancestors who died. Finally, a plan emerged. Not perfect, not satisfying to everyone, but human. Part 1. The Last Exodus. The sky above Seoul burned red. Admiral Taman stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his homeworld die through the massive view screen. Giant alien ships hung in Earth's atmosphere like dark gods, their weapons carving lines of fire across every continent. He had trained his entire life for war, but nothing prepared him for this moment. Humanity was losing. Worse than that, humanity was being erased. His hands gripped the command console. Around him, officers shouted coordinates and damage reports. The bridge hummed with desperate energy. They had maybe 6 hours before the Galactic Council's planet-killer weapon charged to full power. 6 hours to save what little remained of the human race. "Admiral, the colony ships are ready," said Captain Junio, a young pilot with fear written across his face. 17 vessels. They're waiting for your order." Taman nodded slowly. 17 ships. Only 17 had survived the Council's initial assault on humanity's space fleet. Each ship could hold maybe 12,000 people if they packed them in like cargo. Simple math told the cruel truth. Earth had 8 billion people. They could save 200,000 at most. "Begin evacuation," he said quietly. "Prioritize children, then scientists, then anyone we can grab." Down on Earth's surface, chaos ruled every city. Dr. Nari worked in an underground facility in what used to be Busan. She moved through the storage rooms with quick efficiency, checking each container. The Genesis archive held everything that made humanity human. DNA samples from every species of plant and animal. Hard drives containing every book, every song, every piece of art humans ever created. Seeds from every crop. The sum total of human knowledge, compressed into containers small enough to fit on the colony ships. "We need to move faster," shouted her assistant over the sound of explosions above. The facility shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. "If we move faster, we make mistakes," Nari replied calmly. "If we make mistakes, we lose pieces of Earth forever. Work carefully." She had already divided the archive into 17 identical sets. Each colony ship would carry a complete backup. Even if 16 ships died, one would preserve everything. It was the only way to guarantee humanity's culture survived. Above them, Council warships continued their systematic destruction. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Council, a union of 12 advanced species who ruled this section of space. They had discovered humanity 50 years ago and seemed friendly at first. They shared some basic technology, established trade, opened communication. Then everything changed. A Council scout ship crashed in the Pacific Ocean. Human salvage teams found it and studied the wreckage. Inside, they discovered quantum drive technology centuries ahead of Earth's best science. Human engineers, being human, figured out how it worked. Within 20 years, humanity had built their own quantum drives. Their ships could suddenly cross solar systems in days instead of decades. The Council panicked. They sent messages demanding humanity stop using quantum technology. They called it stolen property. They said humans were developing too fast, becoming too dangerous. When humanity refused to destroy their new ships, the Council sent an ultimatum: surrender all quantum technology and submit to Council authority, or face consequences. Earth's governments tried diplomacy. They offered to share their discoveries, to join the Council as partners. The Council refused. They wanted submission, not partnership. They feared competition. So the Council came with warships instead of words. They came to make an example. They came to show the galaxy what happened to young species who reached too far too fast. Captain Junho piloted his colony ship, the Eternal Vigil, through the burning atmosphere. Below, people crowded into designated evacuation zones. His ship could hold 12,000. He watched sensors showing over 2 million people waiting below. The math made him sick. "Landing zone secured," his co-pilot reported. "We have 30 minutes before Council fighters reach this sector. Load as many as possible," Junho ordered. "Pack them in every cargo bay, every corridor. I don't care about comfort, I care about numbers." Through his cockpit window, he saw families running toward the ship, parents carrying children, old people helped by strangers. Everyone desperate, everyone hoping their name would be called. Security forces tried to maintain order, but order was impossible. This was the end of the world, and everyone knew it. His crew worked like machines. 12,000 people, then 13. 14. They kept loading past capacity. The ship groaned under the weight. Warning lights flashed across every control panel. Junho ignored them all. "Sir, we're at dangerous overweight," his engineer warned. "If we add more people, we might not make it to orbit." Junho looked at the crowd still outside, so many faces, so many lives. "Keep loading," he said. In orbit, Admiral Taman coordinated the impossible. 17 colony ships lifting off from 17 locations, each captain trying to save as many as possible. Each ship straining past its limits. The Council's blockade forces moved to intercept, but Earth's remaining military threw themselves at the alien ships. Every fighter pilot knew they would die. They did it anyway, buying minutes with their lives. 15 ships away, reported the tactical officer. 2 more lifting off now. "And the planet killer?" Taman asked, though he already knew. "Charged to 90%. We have maybe 40 minutes. Taman watched his screens, watched humans dying to save other humans, watched cities burning, watched everything humanity built over thousands of years turning to ash. The Council wanted to teach the galaxy a lesson about respecting their authority. They were certainly teaching something. The last colony ship broke atmosphere. Captain Junho's vessel struggled into space, overloaded and barely functional. All 17 ships gathered at the rally point, thousands of kilometers above Earth. Taman gave them new coordinates. 17 different directions, all leading into deep space, into the dark places between stars where the Council might not follow. "Admiral," Dr. Nari's voice came over the communication system from one of the colony ships. "The Genesis archive is distributed. Every ship has a complete set." "Good," Taman replied. "Then we have everything we need. Everything except Earth." Taman had no answer to that. On his tactical display, the Council's planet killer reached full charge. He watched the weapon fire. A beam of violet energy struck Earth's core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the planet cracked like an egg. Continents shattered. Oceans boiled into space. Earth, humanity's home for 300,000 years, broke apart into a billion pieces of rock and regret. 200,000 humans watched their world die. Some screamed, some cried, some simply stared in silence. Captain Junho felt tears running down his face. Dr. Nari clutched the container holding samples of Korean cherry blossoms and wondered if anyone would ever see them bloom again. Admiral Taman forced himself to watch every second. He would remember this. They would all remember this. "All ships," he broadcast on the fleet channel. "Record this moment. Save it in every database, every archive. Make sure your children see it. Make sure their children see it. We scatter now into the dark. We hide. We survive. We build. And someday, somehow, humanity returns. Remember, survive. Return." The 17 colony ships jumped to quantum speed, each heading in a different direction, each carrying a piece of humanity into the unknown. Behind them, Earth's debris field glowed in the light of the sun that would now shine on nothing but asteroids and bones. The Council thought they had eliminated a threat. They had no idea they had just created their doom. Humanity was patient. Humanity was stubborn. And humanity never forgot.